Okay, welcome back children. So in the previous class we have studied about Rutherford's atomic model, but still we have seen that there are a few drawbacks in Rutherford's atomic model. So now we are going to study about the next atomic model, that's called the Bohr's atomic model. So let us see what are the postulates or assumptions of Bohr's atomic model. So the first postulate of Bohr's atomic model states that whenever electron is revolving around the nucleus, it always revolves only in certain permissible orbits in which it neither radiates nor absorbs energy. Since it's not radiating or absorbing energy, so there is no question of electron falling into the nucleus. So the first drawback of Rutherford was eliminated by this postulate. And since electron is revolving in a circular orbit, the necessary centripetal force is supplied by electrostatic force. Okay, we know electrostatic force between two point charges separated by a distance r is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Ze into E divided by r square. Call this as equation 1. Again I repeat, electron revolves around the nucleus in certain permissible orbits in which it neither loses nor gains energy, and he called these orbits as stationary states. Okay, they are called as stationary states. The second postulate. So if you observe an electron revolving in different orbits, okay, these are the various orbits around the nucleus. Whenever electron jumps from one orbit to another orbit, it will radiate or absorb energy. It absorbs energy only if it is sufficient to make it move from one orbit to another. It releases energy whenever it jumps from any higher energy level to lower energy level. So if I call this as EH minus EL, the energy difference between a higher energy level minus lower energy level should be equal to h nu. So he took the help of Planck's quantum theory. Whenever electron jumps from any higher orbit to lower orbit, it will radiate energy in the form of a photon which is discontinuous. It can absorb energy only if it has sufficient amount of energy to jump from one orbit to another. If energy is not sufficient, it won't absorb that particular photon. So this was the second postulate. The third postulate, this is called quantization condition. An electron can revolve in an orbit only if its angular momentum is quantized. That means for an electron in an orbit, angular momentum is integral multiple of h by 2 pi. This condition we call it as Bohr's quantization condition. Okay, we have already seen in de Broglie's waves, mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. Significance of de Broglie's equation also explains the Bohr's quantization condition. Okay, so let's look into that. So according to the Bohr's concept, de Broglie's wave concept, we know that the wavelength associated with any moving particle is h divided by mv. Okay, I am just telling you how de Broglie could explain the Bohr's quantization condition. So this is your de Broglie wavelength. So he predicts that if an electron is revolving in an orbit, it should be forming a wave such that the number of crests should be equal to number of troughs. That means it should form a closed loop like this. If number of crests is equal to number of troughs, see I have taken 4 crests and 4 troughs. So indirectly speaking, the total length of this circle, circumference of the circle, should be integral multiple of wavelength. Check out, this is one wave, 2, 3 and 4. So it forms a closed region only if 2 pi r is equal to n lambda. Again I am repeating, electron revolves only in such orbits in which 2 pi r, the whole circumference is equal to n lambda. Okay, this lambda is the de Broglie wavelength. Substitute the de Broglie wavelength. What is 2 pi r equal to? N into h by mv. Bring mv to the left hand side. mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. So this is how the Bohr's quantization condition was explained by using de Broglie's concept. So these 3 assumptions made by Bohr's atomic model, we call them as Bohr's postulates. I repeat, the first postulate, electron neither loses nor gains energy as long as it is in a permitted energy level. And we call those energy levels as stationary states. Centripetal force is equal to electrostatic force. Whenever electron jumps from any higher to lower orbit, it releases energy in the form of photons, which is a discontinuous release of energy. And it can absorb energy only if it is sufficient to make it jump from one orbit to another. Then angular momentum of an electron in an orbit is quantized. mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. We call this as the Bohr's quantization condition. So these are the three postulates of Bohr's atomic model. Okay, now making use of these Bohr's postulates, let us see how to find out the radius of nth orbit. Okay, similarly we will also find out velocity of electron in an orbit, its kinetic and potential energy, and so on. So first let us start with radius of nth orbit. So to find out the radius of electron or radius of nth orbit around the atom, start with the first postulate. Now, what was the first postulate of Bohr's atomic model? So from postulate 1. Okay, this is all mathematical relation. From the first postulate, mv square by r is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Ze into E divided by r square. So we have r and r here. From this relation, tell me what is r equal to? 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. See, I am taking this r to the left hand side. Ze square divided by mv square. Call this as equation 1. Then from Bohr's second postulate or third postulate, quantization condition. From postulate 3, we know mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. Okay, because in this relation, Z is the atomic number, charge of electron 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is constant, but velocity is variable. So I have to eliminate V. So from this relation, I will write V is equal to nh by 2 pi m into r. Call this equation 2. Substitute equation 2 in equation 1. What will radius become? 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Ze square by m into v square. Square this relation, n square, h square, reverse them. Okay, I am writing the square on the numerator. 4 pi square m square r square. Simplify. 4 and 4 gets cancelled. 1 pi also gets cancelled. 1 m also gets cancelled. See, here we have r square and here we have r. So write the relation in terms of r, 1, and the square also I will cancel. Since we need the formula for r, bring all the terms to the left hand side. N square, h square, epsilon naught. Okay, n square, h square, epsilon naught is equal to Ze square pi into m into r. Since we need to find out the radius of electron or radius of nth orbit, tell me what will r be equal to? N square, h square into epsilon divided by Ze square pi into m. So this relation gives me the radius of orbit, nth orbit, for Z equal to 1. Actually, he derived it for hydrogen atom. So we can apply it for all hydrogen-like atoms. Okay, it is not universally applicable for all the atoms. It's only applicable for hydrogen-like atoms. What do you mean by hydrogen-like atom? Single electron species. Elements which have only one electron, like hydrogen, helium plus, lithium plus plus, and so on. So for such type of atoms, radius of or nth orbit is n square h square epsilon by Ze square pi into m. We know mass of electron is constant, epsilon naught is constant, h is constant, e square constant, pi also is constant. So when you put all the constants, we get the radius as 0.529 n square by Z in angstroms. So you need to remember this relation. Okay, for numericals this will be helpful. I am leaving the value of Z Say if they ask you radius of nth orbit for helium plus, the value of Z will be 2. For lithium dipositive, Z will be taken as 3. Okay, though he has applied it for hydrogen atom, it's applicable for all single electron species. So this is the first derivation, okay, to determine the radius of nth orbit. Okay, now that we have calculated the radius of electron in nth orbit, let us look into velocity of electron. Okay, just now we have seen from Bohr's quantization condition, mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. So in the place of r, I will substitute this relation. Substitute mv. In the place of radius, I am writing n square h square epsilon by z e square pi into m. Cancel of this m should be nh by 2 pi. Pi and pi also gets cancelled. So 1 n square h n square. So we are left with v nh epsilon by z square is equal to 1 by 2. Okay, since we need the velocity of electron, write the equation in terms of v. V is equal to z square by 2 nh epsilon. So I am going to modify this relation. I will write it as z by n outside. Z and n I am taking outside the bracket. What are the remaining terms? E square by 2h epsilon naught. Multiply with speed of light, divide with speed of light. Okay, I have multiplied it with c and divided this with c. So z into c by n, and all these terms are constants. So look at it, charge of electron is constant, h constant, epsilon constant, c is also constant. So when you put all the constants, we get v is equal to 1 by 137 zc by n. Okay, this constants come out to be 1 by 137. Again, we will be using this relation for finding out the velocity of electron in nth orbit. Z is the atomic number, c is the speed of light, and n gives you the principal quantum number. And we call this 1 by 137, that is E square by 2h epsilon naught c, is called the fine structure constant. Okay, sometimes in objective pattern you get this. Identify or which of the following represents the fine structure constant. So remember it, E square by 2h epsilon naught into c. And in a few books, they will write 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught as k. Don't confuse, if they use this letter k, in the place of k, you can write 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. So this is a formula for finding out the velocity of an electron in nth orbit for all hydrogen-like atoms. Okay, now coming to energy for, expression for total energy of an electron in an orbit. So we are going to calculate its mechanical energy. Total energy of electron in an orbit for hydrogen-like atoms. So we know that from the first postulate, mv square by r is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Here I am using the symbol k. Z square divided by r square. So cancel of this r and r. So what is mv square equal to? K z square divided by r. Divide with 2 on either sides. Half mv square. So kinetic energy of an electron in an orbit is k z square divided by 2r. If you want, you can substitute the value of r, but I am leaving it in terms of r only. So this is your kinetic energy. Then comes potential energy. Okay, we know electrostatic potential energy between 2 point charges. How do you calculate the electrostatic potential energy? It's equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. We are writing it as k. Q1 Q2 divided by r. Z into E divided by r. But it has a negative sign. The electron is having a negative charge. Q1 is positive but Q2 is negative. So what is potential energy of electron in an orbit? Minus kz square by r. So we have calculated its potential energy also and kinetic. Then tell me what will be its total energy. sum of these two. K Z square by R is common in both the terms. So you will add both the relations. Minus K Z square by R potential energy plus K Z square by 2R. Okay, when you add them, take out K Z square by R common. Minus 1 plus half. That is minus K Z square divided by 2R. So this gives you expression for total energy. See, if you observe, total energy is negative, potential is also negative, but kinetic cannot be negative. We know kinetic energy will never be negative. So if they ask you to find the ratio between kinetic is to potential is to total, remember you have to express potential and total energy with negative sign. The significance of negative sign is, as long as energy is negative, it is bound to the nucleus. If energy becomes positive, it has overcome the electrostatic force of attraction. So what should be the ratio of these three values? Half is to minus 1 is to minus half. If you want, you can simplify it by multiplying with 2 or leave the answer. But it is must for you to use a negative sign for potential as well as total energy. So this is the total energy of the electron in an orbit. Now I am going to modify this relation. Okay, we know K is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught and radius we have already studied. It is 0.529 n square divided by z. So when you substitute the radius, we get this total energy as minus 13.6 z square by n square expressed in electron volts. This formula is more helpful for numericals. The total energy of hydrogen-like atoms of an electron in an orbit is minus 13.6 z square by n square electron volts. So this is the principal quantum number and this is your atomic number. So these three relations, velocity, radius, kinetic potential and total energies, are quite important for solving numericals related to this particular chapter.